An inconsistent Chelsea side, who are currently 11th in the Premier League, have just beaten Champions League chasing Aston Villa with a full-strength team at Villa Park, where they have one of the best home records in the entire league. What? And after getting thrashed by Wolverhampton Wanderers 4-2 and then the game before that against Liverpool 4-1, you expected some sort of result from this Chelsea side. However, this wasn't just a streaky 1-0 win, smash and grab. This was a comprehensive victory for Chelsea, and one I didn't see coming, so let's break it down. I'm starting with the lineups, and for Aston Villa, they went as strong as they possibly could, apart from obviously the injury to Ezri Konsa, which he suffered in the last game, so Matty Cash came in. Apart from that, Unai Emery went with his full strength squad, didn't rest anyone. And for Chelsea, Pochettino made some big decisions in this game. The first one being dropping Thiago Silva. Whether this was his performance against Wolves, in fact he got torn up by Pedro Neto, or the fact that his wife was tweeting stuff about Chelsea, which he probably shouldn't have been done. Either way, Pochettino decided to go with Disasi and Badiashile, and they had a fantastic game. Another one, which is more of a tactical change than a personnel change, was the fact that Enzo Fernandez was playing a lot more deeper in this game, which you probably would have expected. I should probably have Fernandez and Casado the other way around, actually. And the other one being Nicholas Jackson, starting on the left wing, however, not down the middle, which I thought was interesting, but worked out really well for them. And Madueke on the right, and obviously Cole Palmer has to be in the side, and he was starting up front. And the game started really end-to-end, with both teams going for it, and Chelsea were really aggressive in this, and that's actually not something I'd expect. I thought they might be a bit more conservative in the initial periods at way to Villa. However, they were incredibly aggressive, and that's where their first goal came from. Now, this is where Chelsea first initially won the ball for their first goal, and you can't really see him, but off to the right is Ollie Watkins in an offside position. But what you've got here, which I thought was really interesting, was Moise Caicedo in between the centre-backs of Badiashile and Disasi, marking Yuri Tielemans in the middle of the park. And why I thought this is interesting, because when Chelsea are playing a four at the back, and with the pace of someone like Ollie Watkins, if he goes down the channels and beating a fullback, then one of the centre-backs have got to go with him, which will leave a massive hole in that Chelsea defence, which Caicedo would actually end up filling in. But in this instance, Chelsea win the ball back, which was a very aggressive play by Ben Chilwell and well won from Matty Cash. He plays it to Conor Gallagher in the middle of the park, and he plays it back out wide to Nicholas Jackson. And although Jackson out wide was fantastic in this game because of his pace, power, and his also defensive awareness and positioning, was actually excellent up against a fullback such as Matty Cash, making sure he wasn't able to get much joy down the right hand side, and actually marked him out of the game completely, I thought. And then of course later on, Conor Gallagher does end up getting the ball and putting it into the net to make it Chelsea 1-0. And from there on, actually, despite some promising attacks by Villa, it was really all Chelsea and their domination. And now this was Chelsea not winning the ball back and counter-attacking, but actually playing it from the back from their own goal kick. And again, I thought it was really interesting was Caicedo was dropping in between the centre-backs to form a 3 and a 2, which you've seen a lot of teams do last season and this season, especially in the way how they build up play from the back. And I think Caicedo was doing it fantastically well. We saw against Wolves that when he was playing slightly further higher up, he was getting dispossessed by the Wolves midfielders, and Chelsea were often being counter-attacked. But dropping in deeper alongside the Chelsea two centre-backs, I think allows him to have the play in front of him, which I think it suits his game a lot better. Of course, he was still doing that when he was still in midfield and he was still receiving the ball on the turn, which he did really well in this game. But I think, as a whole, getting the ball and playing it from the back is a lot better position for him to be in. But as I said, talking about this goal here, first of all, you got the 3 and the 2 of Chelsea. But then if you look at how narrow the front 3 is of Chelsea, you got Cole Palmer in an offside position, and then just behind him are Nicholas Jackson on the left, and you've got Noni Madueke on the right. And look at how narrow the Villa back 4 is as well. Everyone is so close to each other, which creates a lot of space out wide. And you've got Malo Gusto on the far right there. And one thing is, John McGinn, I mean, what position is he in there? What position is he trying to do? Is he trying to mark Malo Gusto? Is he trying to mark Noni Madueke? He had to get caught in no man's land. And that is actually a really, really poor position to be, because he's kind of pressing Disasi, but also he's kind of trying to block 2 players' path. And in the end, he ends up just doing nothing, and he just gets easily bypassed, and Disasi takes the ball to Madueke. I think from there, what's really interesting is the fact that Gusto starts bombing it down the right wing, but so does Chilwell, who's off screen at the moment, but he'll come into picture in a second. He's also bombing it down the left wing, and then you end up having a 5 who are running straight at Aston Villa's back line. Now play builds up, and then Gusto ends up getting the ball, putting a lovely cross in for Jackson to head it home to make it 2-0 for Chelsea. And I'm sorry I'm moving myself around, I really want to make sure that you guys can see the graphic and see what I'm talking about. But here you've got the 4 Chelsea attackers who are Gusto on the far right. You've got Cole Palmer marking Longley, I think it was. And you've got Nicola Jackson up against Carlos. And you've got Ben Chilwell at the very bottom against Matty Cash. And it's one where, first of all, Alex Moreno needs to be doing so much better there. He needs to be getting much, much tighter to Gusto because, again, he's just a very easy man to bypass. I thought Villa had a terrible game all round, especially defensively. But then as soon as you pass Moreno, which is a very easy thing for Gusto to do with his cross, it's 3-on-3. It's 3 Aston Villa defenders versus 3 Chelsea attackers. And I just thought, how from Chelsea's own goal kick do they work the ball, and they actually work it really well to the point where it's now ended up being 3v3 in Aston Villa's own penalty area. I thought that was fantastically well played from Chelsea for this scenario and for this goal. And as you can see, even if Chelsea then puts the ball in the back of the net, and say Gusto puts the ball into the box, and then one of the midfielders picks it up on the edge of the box for Villa and they counter-attack, Chelsea are still in a very solid position if they were to be countered from this position, because they've got Enzo Fernandez at the very bottom, and then just furthest to the right, you've got Conor Gallagher there. You've still got Caicedo, Disasi, and Badiashile still off screen, only marking Ollie Watkins. I think they're in a fantastic position going forward and defensively, and I think it's one where Aston Villa just were all over the place. Chelsea, it was far too easy, but then Chelsea were able to work the ball up the field really well as well. And Aston Villa would be brutally disappointed with how the game went, especially scenarios like this. And from then on, it became far too easy for Chelsea because they set up in a very lovely 4-4-2 block. They had Cole Palmer and Conor Gallagher the furthest 2 forward, and then the other wingers were sitting back as well. And it became far too easy for Chelsea just to play Aston Villa out of this game completely. And I think one of the benefits of not playing Thiago Silva in this game, who I think, by the way, is a fantastic player, but I think at 39 years old, he is getting exposed a little bit when he's not playing in a back 3. And I think when he's in a back 4, I think it's one where Chelsea are probably better off without him. I just have to say that because it allowed for Chelsea to play a much higher line. Actually, they're playing a much higher line than I've got demonstrated here, but I'll just space it out just to make it easier for you to show you guys. But I think one thing they were doing was they were letting the centre-backs of Aston Villa have the ball, the centre-backs and the goalkeeper, Martinez. And so here, for an example, we've got Carlos on the ball, and say he's got the ball here, right? And then Aston Villa, decide they're going to try and play through Chelsea, which is incredibly hard to do. So they're going to decide, okay, Carlos is going to play the ball to Matty Cash. As soon as that happens, Conor Gallagher gets goal side of Kamara, Cole Palmer gets goal side of Douglas Luiz, and then Nicola Jackson presses the hell out of Matty Cash. And then all of a sudden, Matty Cash is looking up and he's thinking to himself, right, where can I play the ball? He can either play a long, hopeful ball in behind, in which Chelsea have the pace of Chilwell and Badiashile, and so they can easily drop off and get the ball, or we've got Petrovic as well in goal who can come and clear up. So he sees that and thinks, right, I'm just going to lose possession straight away. What he does, he passes it back. He passes it all the way back to Carlos, and then Nicola Jackson presses Cash, Conor Gallagher presses Carlos, and then Cole Palmer presses Longley. And then all of a sudden, Carlos has nowhere to go, but all he does is he goes back to Emi Martinez. And then from this position, Chelsea just drop. They just drop. And then they press up. The entire team presses up the field, and there's nothing that Aston Villa can do. Now, Aston Villa, if they want, can then try and play it out again from the other side. So they do. They play it to Longley. Cole Palmer goes goal side of Douglas Luiz. Conor Gallagher always tries to get goal side of Kamara. They play it to Moreno. And then Noni Madueke is pressing the hell out of Moreno. Nothing happens again because everyone is marked. Again, if you try and play a ball down in the wing, you can try that if you want, but it's Malagusto against John McGinn. I think we know who's winning that race. Again, you've got Disasi against Watkins. So again, unlikely to win that race because Disasi has the pace and the power. And with Thiago Silva, they'll be playing much deeper back, which will mean that there'll be more space for everyone in that midfield and be able to more easily find the pass. But with Disasi and Badiashile, it meant that they couldn't. And what happens here is Moreno just ended up going back to Longley. Cole Palmer presses. He has nowhere to go because Conor Gallagher is also pressing here, and so he just goes back to Martinez. And it was just easy. It was so easy for Chelsea throughout this game, once they went 2-0 up especially, to be able to just do this, because it meant that they had complete control on and off possession. And I think it's one where I think Nicola Jackson, credit to him, that's his 9th goal this season, 7th in the Premier League, 1 in the FA Cup and 1 in the League Cup. And I think he was much better on the left wing than he was down the middle. I think fair play to Noni Madueke. He's come in as well. He's been a bit hit and miss this season. He rotated with Sterling and Mudryk, but I think himself was fantastic in there. And I think Enzo Fernandez next to Caicedo is definitely the way to go. Enzo Fernandez means being a lot deeper and alongside Caicedo to help him out, because Caicedo can break things up, but Enzo, with his ability to play passes from deeper, is a much better player. And you go in 2-0 down at halftime as an Aston Villa fan, and you think to yourself, right, Unai Emery is going to change something at halftime, but he doesn't. And that was very strange because of the fact that you're playing as strong as 11 as you can. You've only made the one change because it was enforced. And so, okay, maybe think to yourself, right, the Villa players are clearly very fatigued, very tired after playing midweek and on the weekend consistently. And you got Man United on the weekend, which is a very big, important game. So let's mix things up a little bit. Let's change something. But they don't. And it's, again, more of the same, and it comes to the detriment of Villa, because what happens is when you let the game drift, the opposition will kill you. And in this situation, Enzo Fernandez, take a bow. He absolutely does that. I didn't know he had this in his locker. Apparently scored a few goals at Benfica, which I saw after the game on YouTube, some YouTube highlights. But I thought to myself, wow, what a goal. I haven't seen the ball go into the top corner, like a postage stamp goal like that, in a while, and of that quality. And I thought this was absolutely phenomenal. And I think, to be fair to Chelsea, this is what they deserved from the game. They deserved to go 3-0 up. I think Villa were very slow and sluggish coming out of the second half. Weren't, at the races whatsoever. And they got punished for not making any changes, being better in that second half. And I think that was a bit of a worry. But I think Fernandez, you got to just take your hat off to him, because what a fantastic goal this was. And after going 3-0 up, the win was essentially secured for Chelsea. However, they did end up making some changes. Some were enforced, some were tactical. The fact that Thiago Silva came on, Raheem Sterling came on. And it was a bit of a weird one, because I thought both of those players, who I both really like individually, but I think both of them made Chelsea worse when they came on. I thought Nkunku, when he came on, was phenomenal. His touch when he pulled the ball from the sky, I thought was incredible. And he is clearly one player who's going to be going forward for Chelsea, going to be so important if they can get him fit. But it did mean that Aston Villa did come into the game, and of course they had to at some point, really had a spell of domination, and they did, but it was right at the end of the second half. And we've seen Aston Villa do really well from set pieces this season. They've got the set piece coach who, anytime they score a goal from a set piece, is always running up and giving Unai Emery a high five. But from here, I do have to question. I mean, I know it's at the end of the game, and Chelsea will probably be disappointed with the fact that they didn't keep a clean sheet, but look at the amount of space that Diaby has. Not only the space, but look at how far away all the Chelsea defenders are. No one is closing him down, and it comes through a body of legs, and I don't think Petrovic can do too much about it, because it's right in the bottom corner. Consolation for Aston Villa, but well-deserved win for Chelsea, and they got through to the next round. And it's not often that you can say to an Unai Emery side that they were tactically outdone on the day. And in fact, more than anything else, I think Chelsea just wanted it more. It's a bit confusing because they don't do this week in, week out, and we know they have these performances in them. But I think maybe they are more of a cup team this season, because as we've seen, they can get up for the big games. We saw against Arsenal, which was a 2-2 draw at home at Stamford Bridge. We saw against Manchester City, was a 4-4 draw at home at Stamford Bridge. That they are good and that they can produce games of quality, but they can't do it consistently. So maybe a cup run is something what they need. Maybe the fact that they've got Leeds in the next round as well. They're in the Carabao Cup final against Liverpool, and that's a big one actually, the Carabao Cup final, because a performance like this puts into doubt as a Liverpool fan what they can do, because they surely can do it, but it depends on what Chelsea turn up on the day, which is incredibly annoying and frustrating, because they do have the quality. But for Aston Villa, it's their second consecutive loss at home now this season, for a side who have a very good home record. As of late, it's been less than impressive. And I think it's one where you got Man United at home on the weekend, which is going to be a massive game. Man United are currently 8 points behind Aston Villa, having both teams played the same amount of games. If Villa lose that, then Man United are only 5 points away. You'd expect maybe Spurs to beat Brighton, but that's going to be a massive game as well. And you really want to put that, that 8-point gap, turn it into 11, and put a big difference between Man United, who at the moment maybe seem to be having a bit of a resurgence, and then go, no, it's definitely a two-horse race for that fourth place between us and Spurs. No other team is in it. But I think, it's going to be tough because there's still Conference League football to come back as well. So maybe it's a good thing to get knocked out against Chelsea. However, with Leeds in the next round, it did seem like a bit of a missed opportunity. But there are so many sides, top quality sides still in the FA Cup. You got Liverpool, you got Manchester City, you got Man United, you got Newcastle. So it isn't going to be easy to win the FA Cup. I think it would have been one. It would have been nice to get to the fifth round for Villa. But unfortunately, thankfully, maybe this was a league game, FA Cup game, because if it was the league game, it could have had bigger ramifications. But for Chelsea, What do you guys think as Chelsea fans? I mean, 11th in the league at the moment, as you can see with the performance today, you can perform like that, but if you can do it consistently is another matter. I mean, could you do it in the League Cup? There's a chance. In the FA Cup, there's a chance. What's a good season for you guys? Is it top half and 2 trophies, 1 trophy? Do you have to be more like 8th, 7th? What do you guys think? Because I'm so confused on what to think about Chelsea's season from now on. But let me know, because I want to hear from you guys in the comments below.